Thanks for staying with us. The war in Libya is creating a new uncertainty for migrants in the country. The conflict has disrupted Libya's shrunken migrant smuggling and detention networks, and recent detention center closures mean migrants are leaving ports in taxis after being intercepted by the EU-backed Coast Guard. Those still in detention face extreme abuses, including fatal shootings when they try to escape.
After 3 days at sea trying to reach Europe, Demba Dembele was intercepted by Libya's EU-backed Coast Guard and returned to Tripoli, where, like dozens of other migrants, he got in a taxi and set off into the city. For years, migrants sent back to Libya have been routinely transferred to government-affiliated detention centres notorious for squalid conditions and abuse. Now, with several centres closing, some migrants are being allowed to walk free when they disembark, though they face an uncertain fate in a country shaken by renewed conflict over the past 6 months.
There are no human rights for migrants in Libya. We don't have the right to study or work, and the treatment is bad. If there's a way for Europeans to help us with rescue ships like they did before, we hope they do so.
Dembele, a 28-year-old from Mali, had twice tried to get to Europe. After his first attempt failed, he spent 3 months in detention. According to United Nations data, just 8,400 have made the crossing to Italy so far this year, and 7,400 have been intercepted and returned. The shift has made Libya even more brutal for migrants who remain, exposing them to increased levels of abuse and extortion by smugglers.
When migrants are rescued, they are kept here at detention centers. We urge the Libyan government to open detention centers, especially the Tajura Center, which used to receive a considerable number of migrants. We are left with a problem now, as there is no one there to receive them.
Libya has an estimated migrant population of 640,000. The centres houses just 5,000, but turnover can be rapid. In the past, centres that were closed have reopened, or new centres have sprung up at different sites.
Meanwhile, the NGOs that run the Mediterranean migrant rescue ship Ocean Viking are calling on EU nations to designate a safe port for the 104 rescued people stranded on board to disembark. Doctors Without Borders, along with SOS Mediterranean, said that among those aboard the ship are 2 pregnant women and 41 children younger than 18 years old. On October 18, the Ocean Viking embarked 104 people on an inflatable boat in distress. The group contacted Italian and Maltan authorities last week to ask for a site to disembark, but to no avail so far. The migrants coming to Europe in recent years have mainly been fleeing wars and poverty in the Middle East, Asia and Africa. Dozens of migrants have also been killed trying to make the crossing in recent months.
Currently, the situation on board is it's been a long time. They've been on our vessel for a long time. Our vessel is a rescue vessel. It's not intended for people to stay on for extended stays. It's intended for people to be rescued and taken to a port of safety for disembarkation. Their anxiety is growing. They're unsure of what's going to happen to them next. We don't know where they're going to go, how much longer we're going to be out here. We're sitting in between Italy and Malta in international waters, waiting for the EU governments to make a decision on how our people will be disembarked, on where we will go for a disembarkation. But this process that happens again and again, these standoffs that take days, that take weeks, this is horrific. And if this is the new norm, this is not the expectation we should be holding the EU to. We have women who are pregnant on board. We have women who have infants on board who have made this trip out to the Mediterranean Sea. We have people who have done this trip and been taken back to Libya multiple times. They know the danger they're facing. They know the risk of dying at sea is very high. They know that the Mediterranean is turning into a graveyard. but they still think the risk is worth it, rather than being trapped in Libya where they have no hope.
Away from the migrants crisis, talks between student leaders and management at one of Africa's most prestigious universities have ended without a conclusion, with students vowing further demonstrations. The meeting at Uganda's Makerere University was called following last week's student protest against a proposed 15% hike in tuition fees that were violently suppressed. Many students were dragged from their halls of residence. More than 60 of them were arrested, while others were beaten up. Local media in the capital, Kampala, says security officers on campus have been barring people from entering the premises without student ID cards since Monday morning and breaking up any groups of students who attempt to gather together. The International Committee of the Red Cross and its Zambian counterpart are appealing for $3.5 million in donations to avert catastrophic food insecurity that it says could affect 2.3 million people. The humanitarian group says low rainfall and waterlogging have destroyed many crops. Zambia's Red Cross says a lack of drinking water caused by drought means that people and animals, both livestock and wildlife, are having to use the same water points. Food relief has been provided over the past few months, but the ICRC says more help is needed. An independent commission of experts have concluded that wild poliovirus type 3 has been eradicated worldwide. Following the eradication of smallpox and wild poliovirus type 2, the WHO says the news represents a historic achievement for humanity. The announcement coincided with the World Polio Day, marked on October 24. It also comes 3 years after a last case of type 1 poliovirus has been reported in 2016 in Nigeria.
Wild type 3 polio has been eradicated worldwide. This wonderful news tells us that polio can be eradicated. 2 of the poliovirus strains are gone, and only type 1 polio remains, and that only in Pakistan and Afghanistan. We cannot relax our vigilance for program performance, that's vaccination that protects children, our surveillance to find polioviruses, our preparedness to deal with any poliovirus should it occur, and our ability to contain polioviruses forever. We've eradicated 2 of the 3 polioviruses. We have just 1 strain of poliovirus left in 2 countries. We just have to finish this job.
This is only a milestone. We have not reached our destination. The last mile, as we know, is the hardest mile, and we must continue even greater, with greater commitment and determination until polio is eradicated.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shoboale. Bye for now.